Disclaimer: this content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. It was supposed to be just another quiet Sunday. The kind where the morning light slips softly through the curtains and everything feels a little slower, a little warmer. Al had promised his wife they'd finally tackle the cleaning they'd been putting off. She had tied her hair up, rolled her sleeves, and even turned on their favorite playlist. But the moment Al walked into the bedroom with that teasing smile on his face, she knew cleaning wasn't going to happen the way she planned. Their marriage had always been full of these little moments, playful arguments, stolen kisses in the middle of chores, and a love that didn't need big words to be understood. Al, with his slightly messy hair and that boyish charm, had a way of turning the most ordinary situations into something unexpectedly intimate. And today, as she knelt by the bed trying to tuck in the sheets, she could feel his eyes on her, more focused on her than the laundry pile behind them. She tried to ignore it, laughing nervously and nudging him away. "Al, seriously, let me finish this." But he didn't move. Instead, he stepped closer, his hands warm as they grazed her waist, pulling her into him just enough to make her heartbeat skip. "You look too good when you're working hard," he murmured, and before she could respond, he gently tugged her down onto the bed. What started as a playful distraction turned into a moment neither of them had planned. Sheets half done, pillows tossed aside, and laughter echoing off the walls. It wasn't the mess she was trying to clean, but it quickly became the mess they made together. And somewhere between the tangled sheets and soft touches, something shifted. It wasn't just about the mess or the cleaning anymore. There was something deeper stirring, something raw and real that neither of them had spoken about in weeks. Al pulled away slightly, his eyes searching hers, suddenly serious. "Can I tell you something?" he asked, voice lower now, uncertain. But before he could finish, the front door creaked open. The sound of keys dropping, a voice calling out from the hallway. Someone had come home earlier than expected. She sat up, breath caught in her throat. Al's hand brushed against hers, grounding her in that moment. "We'll talk later," he whispered. But the tension in the air had already settled, and the question hung between them, unanswered. The sound of footsteps grew louder, each step making her heart race faster. Al gave her a small, reassuring smile, but even he couldn't hide the slight tension in his jaw. They both sat frozen for a moment, listening. Was it a neighbor? A friend stopping by? Or maybe a family member who forgot to call first? No matter who it wasn't the kind of moment they wanted anyone to walk in on. The bed was still a mess, the laundry half-folded, and the air thick with something unspoken between them. Al stood up first, adjusting his t-shirt and running a hand through his hair, trying to look casual. She followed, quickly smoothing out the sheets as best as she could, her mind still racing from what almost happened and from what he almost said. For weeks, maybe even months, she had felt something different in Al. He was still loving, still playful, but there was something he was holding back. Something important. And now, when he finally seemed ready to open up, life had interrupted. The door clicked shut from the hallway, and to their surprise, it was just a delivery guy dropping off a package. Relief washed over her like a wave, but the moment between them had already shifted. It wasn't the same light-hearted morning anymore. Now there was a question hanging in the air that neither of them dared to answer. Al looked at her, his smile softer now. "Guess we got lucky this time," he joked, trying to bring back the easy vibe between them. She smiled back, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. The truth was, she wanted to know what he had been about to say. But part of her was scared too. What if it was something that would change everything? She picked up a pillow and tossed it gently at him, pretending to be annoyed. "Now let me finish cleaning before you distract me again." But her voice was lighter now, masking the curiosity and worry stirring deep inside. Al caught the pillow, spinning it in his hands before placing it neatly on the bed. He gave her one last look, as if promising they'd finish this conversation later. But would they? Or would the moment slip away, lost between unfinished chores and life's constant interruptions? She couldn't shake the feeling that something big was coming. And when it did, nothing between them would ever be quite the same again. The rest of the afternoon passed with a strange kind of quiet between them. They went back to folding laundry and dusting shelves, but it wasn't the same as before. Every now and then, Al would catch her looking at him, as if waiting for him to finish what he'd started to say earlier. But he just smiled, distracting her with little jokes or by pulling her into a quick hug when she wasn't expecting it. She played along, laughing at his jokes and leaning into his touch, but deep down, the question still burned inside her. What had he been about to tell her? And why did it feel like he was avoiding it now? Later that evening, as the sky turned a soft pink, Al slipped outside to take a phone call. She watched him from the kitchen window, the way he paced back and forth, voice low and serious. It wasn't like him to take calls like this, away from her, guarded. Something about the way his shoulders tensed and how he rubbed the back of his neck made her stomach twist. She tried not to jump to conclusions, but her mind couldn't help racing. Was he hiding something from her? Or worse, was there someone else involved in this secret? When he finally came back inside, his smile returned, softer this time, almost forced. He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her close like nothing had happened. "Sorry, work stuff," he said easily. "Nothing to worry about." But his eyes didn't quite meet hers. She wanted to believe him. She really did. But something felt off. This wasn't just work. As the night went on, the distance between them felt bigger, even though they sat side by side on the couch. The TV played softly in the background, but neither of them paid much attention. She rested her head on his shoulder, searching for comfort, for answers. He kissed the top of her head gently, as if reading her thoughts, but the tension remained like an invisible wall between them. And then there was the mess from earlier, the playful chaos they'd made on the bed that morning. It was still there, half cleaned, half forgotten. Just like their conversation. Unfinished. Unresolved. She wondered if maybe that moment meant more than just a playful distraction. Maybe it was his way of hiding from the truth, of delaying whatever it was he had to say. Meanwhile, a text lit up on Al's phone. She noticed the name, but before she could read the message, he quickly turned the screen over. "Nothing important," he said, flashing a smile. But her heart sank a little. If it was truly nothing, why hide it? The night grew quiet again, but the silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, filled with things left unsaid. She wondered how long they could keep pretending everything was fine. How long before the truth came crashing down around them, changing their little world forever. The next morning came too fast, sunlight slipping through the blinds like nothing had happened. But the heaviness in the room didn't leave. Al was already up when she woke, standing by the window, phone in hand, scrolling through something with a deep, unreadable look on his face. He didn't notice her watching him for a second, the way his shoulders seemed weighed down by thoughts he hadn't shared. She sat up slowly, pulling the blanket around her, wondering if today would finally be the day he told her the truth. They barely spoke during breakfast. The usual laughter and playful teasing were replaced with short smiles and awkward silences. He kept checking his phone, glancing at the screen like he was waiting for a message he didn't want to get. She couldn't take it anymore. Setting her coffee down, she finally asked, voice soft but steady, "Al, what's going on? You're not yourself lately." For a moment, he looked like he was about to tell her everything. His mouth opened, words on the tip of his tongue, but then buzz. His phone vibrated against the table. He checked it quickly, and whatever he saw made his expression shift. Serious. Guarded. "It's nothing. I just have to take care of something today, that's all." But she wasn't buying it. "Al, I'm your wife. Don't shut me out." The hurt in her voice cracked through the quiet room. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and for a second she saw the man she knew, the one who always promised her honesty. But just as fast as it came, it slipped away. He stood up, grabbing his jacket. "I'll be back later." We'll talk tonight, I promise. And with that, he left, the door clicking shut behind him, leaving her alone with 1,000 questions and a heart that couldn't stop racing. The hours crawled by. She tried to clean, to distract herself, but every little sound made her jump. Every message on her phone made her hope it was him explaining everything. But it wasn't. And as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across their bedroom, she noticed something else. His work bag, usually by the door, was still there. But his wallet and car keys were gone. Where did he really go? And what was he keeping from her that was big enough to tear them apart? The sun was already slipping below the horizon when she finally decided to call him. The phone rang and rang, but no answer. Her stomach tightened. Al never ignored her calls. Never. She paced the living room, mind racing, heart pounding louder than the ticking clock on the wall. Something wasn't right. And it wasn't just about work. There was something deeper, something personal, something he was keeping locked away. Just when she thought about calling his best friend to check if Al was with him, a knock came at the door. She froze. It was too late for visitors. Slowly, cautiously, she opened the door, and there stood a woman she didn't recognize. Early 30s, sharp features softened by an uneasy smile, holding a small envelope in her hands. "Are you Al's wife?" the woman asked gently, her voice calm but tired. Confused, she nodded. "Yes, who are you?" The woman sighed, as if struggling with what to say next. "I didn't mean to intrude, but I've been trying to reach him. He's helping me with something important, something he didn't want to worry you about." A chill ran down her spine. "What are you talking about? What could be so important that he couldn't tell me?" The woman hesitated, handing her the envelope. "I think it's better if you read this. I don't want to cause problems between you two. I just needed his help. Please understand." With that, the woman turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the doorway, envelope trembling in her hands. She closed the door and sat down, staring at it, afraid to open it, afraid of what it might say. But curiosity won over fear. Slowly, she unfolded the letter. It wasn't what she expected. Inside, Al had written about something from his past, a mistake that had resurfaced after all these years. He hadn't told her because he thought he could fix it quietly, protect her from it. But now it was bigger than he could handle alone. He asked for forgiveness for not being honest sooner, and he promised to explain everything tonight. But it was already late. And he wasn't home. She set the letter down, hands shaking slightly. Was this woman really telling the truth? And where exactly was Al now? Her mind spun with possibilities. Maybe he was in trouble. Maybe he was protecting someone. Or maybe he didn't plan to come back. The silence of the house felt louder than ever. She grabbed her jacket and keys, ready to find him herself if she had to. She wasn't going to sit there and wait for another unanswered call. She drove through the quiet streets, headlights cutting through the night, her mind replaying every word of the letter. It wasn't just a work issue. It was about someone from Al's past, a person he'd once helped, someone who had now dragged him back into a mess he thought he'd left behind. She finally pulled into a parking lot beside an old community center, the only place mentioned in his note. The building stood quiet, shadows stretching across its walls, but as she stepped closer, she heard voices inside. Pushing open the door, her heart froze. There was Al, standing in the middle of the room, facing the woman who had come to the house. But he wasn't angry. He looked relieved. She listened quietly before stepping in, hearing Al say, "I promised I'd protect you, but I can't keep lying to my wife. She deserves to know everything." His voice trembled slightly, breaking through the quiet tension in the room. She finally spoke, and both of them turned to her. "Al, just tell me. No more hiding." He took a deep breath, walking toward her slowly. "I helped her once, years ago. She was caught up in something dangerous, and I thought it was over. But the people she was running from found her again. She didn't have anyone else to call. I was trying to protect both of you, but I thought if I kept it from you, you'd be safe. I was wrong. His voice cracked, full of guilt, but also love. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. The weight of his secret, the lies, and the love behind them all settled between them. But then she stepped closer, taking his hand. Next time, we face it together. No more secrets, Al. Promise me. He nodded, pulling her into his arms, holding her like he never wanted to let go. The woman smiled softly, thankful but knowing she couldn't stay. She left them there, the door quietly closing behind her. Just when it felt like the tension had finally lifted, Al's phone buzzed again. He looked down at the screen and froze. His face went pale. She grabbed his arm, fear creeping back in. What is it? He showed her the message. Just 3 words, it's not over. Al stared at the message, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. She stood beside him, hand on his arm, steady and calm in a way he didn't expect. For the first time in days, he realized he didn't have to carry this alone. With a deep breath, he turned off his phone and looked at her. We'll face it, whatever it is. Together. They drove home in silence, but it wasn't the cold, tense silence from before. It was a quiet understanding between 2 people who had faced something bigger than themselves and come out stronger. At home, the mess from earlier still sat untouched: the laundry, the half-made bed, reminders of how their normal day had turned into something far more complicated. She smiled faintly and shook her head. Looks like we still didn't finish cleaning, she teased, her voice softer now. Al laughed, the first real laugh in days. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. Maybe some messes aren't so bad after all. Over the next few days, Al contacted the people involved in his past and finally cut ties with everything that was threatening their peace. He explained the full story to her, every part of it, the mistakes, the regrets, and the reasons he tried to protect her. And in return, she gave him what he needed most: understanding and forgiveness. They slowly found their rhythm again, filling their home with laughter, simple joys, and trust that didn't need to be proven every day but was felt in every little thing they did for each other. But sometimes, late at night, she would catch him staring off, quiet and thoughtful. And she would reach out, reminding him that whatever shadows lingered from the past, they didn't have to face them alone anymore. The message, "It's not over," still haunted them both in the back of their minds, but instead of fear, it became a reminder that life was unpredictable, and that love, when honest and shared, could face anything. So, for now, they lived in the present. And whatever came next, they were ready. To all of you watching, what did you feel when Al finally told the truth? Do you think their love is strong enough to survive whatever comes next? Let me know in the comments below. And tell me, would you like to see a sequel to this story? I can't wait to hear your thoughts.